Something that you guys said in the book that really struck me is that decisions in the workplace are made by either out of love or out of fear.
Yeah.
And
Thank you
this
for
really
that.
struck a chord with me because I spent, 35 years in broadcast news. It's a very fear-based industry. If you don't
Yeah.
want to do the job, somebody else will do it.
Yeah.
Um, Talk about that concept and also how we can sort of be our own best critics when it comes to whether we're doing this.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. And that's one that resonates i- with people when they hear it. And I actually think it's because it's simple, but not so simple. They're like, yeah, I know. I do need to do that.
Hmm.
But we get caught up into societal expectations. We get caught up in trying to keep up, and this is where I get into this true self, this idea where you're the most authentic version of who you are in business. And this is what we want you to do. And it's where you're not making your decisions around societal expectations, around these different hats that you're wearing and people that you're trying to be, that chameleon, the professional roles that your identity in this world causes you to make fear-based decisions. So simple example in business is you're going along, things are going well, and then all of a sudden you hear that a competitor opened up in a market that you're not in. And you go, oh my God, they're opening over there? Maybe we should open over there. Why? It was never on your strategic plan. It was not, you had other things that were going on. And all of a sudden you're diverting from your focus because you're afraid that you're not doing what they're doing. That's a fear-based decision. It's not coming from your true self. It's coming from trying to keep up and do something that you had no plans to do. So that's a really simple example that I always like to bring up from a business standpoint. And so what we want you to do is with your foundation discipline number 4, be still. Get still when you notice this happening. Literally take a step back, turn off all your computer and all this kind of stuff. Go sit in a chair and just be with this situation for a moment. Let it settle. Notice what emotions are coming up for you. Notice what kind of thoughts are happening and continue to let it settle. Be there for 5-10 minutes. And then once you've done this, you will begin to see more clearly. And you might notice the humor in why you were getting so caught up in this. And you may have stopped yourself from the knee jerk, leaving your office, going down the hallway, say, did you hear the such and such as are opening in the thing? Oh my God, I didn't hear this. We need to have a meeting. Maybe we should open into and you cause this domino. You just come back to settling and saying, wait, that's not what we're about. That's what they're about. And good for them. We've got our focus. We know our plan. We're confident in it. We revisit our plan every quarter. So if it's that important, we'll revisit it then. But there's nothing I need to get worked up about at this moment. So this is an example where you start tapping into your heart, coming from love, the trust that you're doing what you're meant to be doing at this moment. So there's one example of how we make our decisions from love instead of fear.
It's kind of like in yoga class. I remember an instructor one time, as she was wrapping up the class, said something to that effect, that there's no place that you should be other than here.
Right.
And to
Right.
just embracing that idea that,
Yeah.
you're you, and embrace that, and don't let the world knock you off your chair.
I want to build on that comment. So wise, because in business, I think oftentimes we look at where we're going and we get convicted to the path that we're on. And if the path doesn't work out, we feel we failed. And then we might start questioning ourselves. Maybe I should have gone that other thing. I should have listened. I knew it, this, that, the other, as if you knew that other path was actually the path to success. You don't know that was the path to success. In fact, the path that you were on that caused what you think was the failure is actually, in my view, the greatest success you could have had, because you learned, you gained wisdom from it. And that wisdom may serve you 5 years from now in a way that you make a decision. You don't even remember what this circumstance was, but that wisdom allowed for you to open up space, make a better decision that ended up to be a 10 or 20 or 30 times decision in terms of the growth of your business, the growth of your team, whatever it is, the growth of your personal life, whatever it is. So we really never know when we go down these paths. And so the path back to what you were saying is trust that you're exactly where you're supposed to be at this present moment.
In the book Shine, you and Gino talk about 3 discoveries that are key to transforming yourself as a leader.
Yeah.
The first one is embrace that you are driven. And I think this exercise of these 3 discoveries really are enlightening, because I think a lot of people think that if you're going to be successful in business or as an entrepreneur, you just have to be a hard ass and you have to put your nose to the grindstone and you will succeed. But this is a very different approach. Explain.
Totally. So, the first thing is to accept that you are driven, and the driven is about 10% of the planet. So, let's just say there's around 8 billion people. So 800 million are driven. And then those 800 million have all kinds of professions. They're not just entrepreneurs or leaders, they're scientists and they're in all kinds of industries. So as you look at the small class you're in, it's important to know, like, you're different, you're unique. Acknowledge that, because oftentimes the driven feel out of place and they don't know why. And it's because it's actually a blessing and a curse. There's some really good stuff that comes along with it. There's some bad stuff. And so what we teach is we want you to accept it, embrace it, but understand it so you can manage it, because you do have to manage your driven nature. And the blessing is you are born with a superhuman stamina that other people just don't have. You have this strength, and people are like, how is she doing this? And also, you are the creators of most things on this planet. Okay, so you think about the way we operate. Driven people kind of have created the way we operate through your phone or through the technology you and I are using to do this podcast. Like, some driven person came up with this thing, and you and I are having this conversation. But the curse is that we do a lot of damage to ourselves and the people around us because we're so intense. And there's a great book. I know we're talking about our book, but I can't help but mention the book Driven by Dr. Doug Brackman. And he says it's actually genetic. There's a D2, D4 gene that has a flaw in us driven people. The receptors don't fire. So we never fully feel rewarded or like we're enough. So we just keep going. We're looking for that hit. Other people don't have that. So it's like, I remember years ago, my wife said, you just never stop. It's exhausting. And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't even get it. And it was a great aha moment for me. The other thing about the driven, and you alluded to it in some way earlier, is Gino and I have a friend named Justin Breen, and he works with entrepreneurs. And he said he'd yet to meet an entrepreneur that didn't experience at least one of these following traits: bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy, heightened levels of anxiety, depression, traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. And the last one, which Gino and I threw in, is addiction. And that's doing something compulsively in excess that is not good for you. And one of those things is work. But when we do work and we're successful, people seem to be impressed by that. So what do? More work. Yeah. So more people are impressed by that. And we try to be humble about it. But yet we keep pushing ourselves to the edge of, and then to burnout. And when burnout comes, it's too late. I have not met a person that says, I'm almost burnt out. I only meet people that say, I am burnt out. Yeah. And one of the symptoms of that, and it's true, this is a true thing that I see with my clients, is they have a day they can't get out of bed. Wow. They're just physically and emotionally out, and they don't understand why they can't get out of bed. it's because they push themselves too far. So that's this idea of discovery number one, which is you are
Yeah.
driven.